Yeah,
So
so we were saying, I was saying Are You Afraid of the Dark was a better show. Goosebumps was the better books. Yeah.
yeah, I completely agree there. Now, now we were before we did this, we were talking about like for subjects and stuff. And we were saying how like changes, and it had me thinking a lot about changes of influence or like right now, who do you think would you regard as like your top 3 or 4 influences in terms of inspiration? I think is a better phrase.
Bill
In terms of
Watterson,
Bill
Bill
Watterson.
Watterson, and Gabriel Pa, and I used to say Dr. Seuss, but I found that he's a racist.
That's a bummer.
But Gabriel Pa, Bill Watterson, and you know what? Screw it, Gerard Way. Let's count Gerard Way because
Okay.
not only was he a musician, but he went to art school.
Yeah.
Fun. He went to art school and he wrote a bunch of books. And like, I love Umbrella Academy. No, you know what? I'm changing Gerard Way. Changing it. Oh my God, I forgot my boy. I'm a horrible fan forgetting his name. Brian Lee O'Malley.
Brian Nealman.
Scott Pilgrim, Snot Girl.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, those are my 3. What's your 3?
Right now, I think uh, it's funny you say Bill Watterson because I've been looking back at some Bill Watterson stuff because right now I've really been into Sean Gordon Murphy.
Who is that?
He's a comic artist for right now. He's doing DC and he's doing a really cool run on Batman.
You see, that's where we differ because like I have a really hard time using comics as inspiration only because the way I see like the stuff I make, it's more leading towards like saga and like graphic novels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me like right now. I used to be big on like Greg Pak, but I think just because like where I'm at now, it's like,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I first came across him in his book, Punk Rock Jesus, which just
Punk Rock Jesus.
It's a really, really cool book. The premise being that they clone in the 21st century, a reality TV show clones Jesus Christ and makes an entire TV show around him. And it gets a little political, but then like as he gets older, he rebels against this TV show media system that he's been put in and runs off and starts a punk band and is preaching a bunch of atheist things. So it's
does it how Truman does it get?
How what?
How Truman does it get?
Oh, it starts off very much like it's the Truman Show, but they all know it's the Truman Show. Like they all know that they're on TV and that it's so that's why it's like, okay, he's like, get me out of here. I'm being held against my will. And so as 15, he finds an opening and runs off. Really cool. But his art style is really, yeah, it just speaks to me. So definitely Sean Gordon Murphy. Ashley Wood. I love Ashley Wood's work.
And who's Ashley Wood?
He's an artist. I believe he's Australian, but he works a lot with IDW, and just his pieces are really kind of they're fast and they're loose. He does a lot of work with the calligraphy pen, which is always like really. It's a frenetic energy in his work that just really speaks to me, and like, yeah, that one always is like, yeah, really just. It's messy, but in like the coolest way, where it's like his figure drawings are always so impressive to me because they're like sometimes they're cartoony and sometimes they're very sexy and not safe for work, but they're also simple, but they're also at times very realistic, and it's just a real blend of sort of like
All right.
there's
So
a there's a blend of genres.
yeah, I brought this up with a previous guest because we were talking about something similar. Do you feel like, well, maybe not in this way, but is there something where you felt like you liked it before, but as you've gotten older, you realize it's not something you like? It was more just like a phase. Like I'll go first.
Yeah.
I used to really love Batman comics, and I don't hate Batman comics,
Mhm.
but I think I don't really care for, and this is not to put down anyone who does it. I don't really care for like overly muscular people in
Mhm.
things, and I think that's because like I'm not, I don't work out, so it's like for me, I can't relate to it. Maybe as a kid, when I was younger, I was like, oh my god, it's so cool. They can lift cars, and it's like, I look at my life and I'm just like, maybe that's too out there. I'd want something more I can read. Like Umbrella Academy can relate to the characters in like on a personal level,
Mhm.
and that's kind of something I like. Maybe I think that's what's changed for me. Like, what about you? Is there anything for you?
Yeah, I loved I still love anime, but as I've grown older, it's like my anime tastes have definitely kind of shifted in terms of more story things. Where it's like looking back on some of them, I'm like, did I really appreciate the show itself, or did I just love the art style? Where it's
Which animes did you grow up on?
like
That's
I'm
that's a
thinking,
good question.
yeah, because I look back and I'm like, Cowboy Bebop's still one of my all-time favorites, which it's like it's
Top one for me.
top one.
Top
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
Top one.
But like going back and it's like, man, I watched so much Dragon Ball growing up. Like I got into it right as the Android Cell saga. And it was
Oh yeah.
and I was like, that was a really cool place to go into it. But then going back and rewatching it, it's like I found this anime filler list where it's like all the animes episodes that are like,
Yeah.
here are all the filler ones that you don't necessarily need, which is like, power to them because they were outpacing the book at the time. So it's like, understand that. But yeah, I don't know. Some of the things like movies, I definitely, as I get older, have a greater appreciation for older movies that I thought were boring or slow, or like thriller movies. Like as a kid, what's a can't remember who directed. I'm blanking. Every
You
now and
know
then
what?
I'll watch Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
I heard that was amazing.
It's really good, but it's also super slow. And I was like, as a kid, I would have hated this, but
You know
it's
what's
like,
funny? To Kill a Mockingbird was the same thing for me. I saw that like in school. I was just like, this movie is so like, I like the book, but I was like, the
yeah,
movie to me was just like, and then I watched it years later and I'm like,
Gregory
you know what?
Peck.
Charlotte's Web too. Charlotte's Web also. Charlotte's Web looks like such a cornball movie when you're a kid. But when you're an
Yeah,
adult and you watch that and you realize like all the stuff they're showing you and how it's done and how it's like made, you're just like,
yeah, because there are so many ones where it's like I feel like those things just in the same way of like inspirations and stuff are always changing. That it's like for me, I'm always like they're threes. It's always the threes where it's like, oh, what was my third one? Oh, I had it up here.
it was Tinker. And then what was the other two?
Katsuhiro Otama, the artist for in terms of the three artists right now that are
Oh, yeah,
probably
the three artists. Yeah.
influencing the most. Sean Murphy, Ashley Wood, and Katsuhiro Otama. Because yeah, I've been going back and like checking out the old Akira stuff and like trying to find the full book because I saw the anime and the anime is fantastic. I own the anime, but the
My
book
friend has the
itself
art
goes,
book for Akira.
oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks
there's
crazy.
But yeah, the aesthetic of it, there's something about like that 80s, 90s anime that it's got a gloss to it, or like it's like a little out of focus or something. I'm not sure, but there's just an aesthetic to it, specifically on the feature films that I'm like, how do you get that? Like, I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, we have all these digital tools. How do you get that back?
I
But
always like when I think of like old animes in my head, the only thing that pops in my head is Big O.
Big O, Big
It was
O,
so iconic just for that one part, but they just say Big O.
just for that
Don't
one.
say it. Just put
That, and also, of course, between Cowboy Bebop and Big O, Steve Bloom, the voice actor for Spike and
follow him on
the leader,
Instagram. Follow him on
he's
Instagram.
I've taken his courses. He's great, and I'm just like, you are the definition of how to just use the tool that you've got. In terms of, he always sounds cool.
Now, what's his face? Troy Baker.
Troy Baker,
Everything.
phenomenal.
Everything. Every little thing. You're playing a video game. You're like Troy Baker.
Troy's
Troy Baker.
That's,
You watch a movie. Troy Baker. You see another game. Troy Baker. You're like, damn, Troy.
that's once I got into voice acting and stuff. It's like I started listening for everybody. I'm like, that's Jennifer Hale. Oh, yeah, that's Lex spell. Okay. It's like Nolan North, Troy Baker, Nolan North.
You know what's funny about Nolan North? I didn't know Nolan. Oh, I can't even say his name. Tongue twister. I didn't know he was a voice actor. So I used to really love Pretty Little Liars. And Nolan North plays the dad.
Yeah.
So I didn't really like care for who he was. And then one day I'm like looking at this article and it's like Nolan North is the voice of this person. And I'm like, that name, I've seen it before. It before. He's the freaking dad on Pretty Little Liars. I'm like, Christy Carlson Romano. Oh my God, because now we got to talk about voice acting stuff now at this point. Christy Carlson Romano, man. People thought she didn't do anything after Even Stevens. People thought she didn't do anything. Incorrect.
No.
Voice acting, Kim Possible, Final Fantasy games. Like,
yeah.
People forget. I think it's funny. People forget that actors can be actors and voice actors because it is a part of the position. It's like you can do both.
It's a part of the same training. It's all the same craft. It's just you're just using a different set of the tools that you have. Yeah, because one that stands out to me who I really love, Josh Keaton.
Okay, you got to tell me what he's in because
now
I'm visual.
That totally fair. So he was the voice of young Hercules in.
Oh, come on.
I know that's a deep cut, but he also did the great run on Spectacular Spider-Man.
Come on.
He popped up in one of the games, and he's just like the spot-on voice for me of like, that's the Peter Parker voice. That's the balance of the age versus the, because looking back at some of those the 90s.
The big one for me is Mark Hamill, straight up. Mark Hamill blew my mind because I only knew him for Star Wars for so long. And mind you, I was watching the Batman cartoon where he was like voicing for years. And then I was like reading a thing. It's like, oh, he's in the voice of Joker and the voice. I'm like, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill is these guys too?
Yeah, Luke Skywalker is the best voice of the Joker ever. And I was so happy because he was always so good on the show, on the TV shows. I really enjoyed seeing him in the games because they got to give him a little bit more mature stuff to be tackling with all these things. In the same way that it's like Kevin Conroy, the guy that does the voice of Batman. I'm like, it's the best version of Batman versus Bruce Wayne.
That's the best combination right there.
Yeah, just those
Kevin
two.
And Mark.
Kevin and Mark. It's like,
all you need.
Well, and it's interesting because I was talking about the Batman comic that Murphy was making. It was interesting because I'm reading it, and in my head, all I'm hearing are those two voices. Are the ones from the animated show? So
you see, I think the person that sticks out to me voice-wise, and I could always recognize it, Tara Strong. I can always recognize Tara Strong. in anything. Like I'll just hear one word, and I'm like, Tara.
Yeah.
1 point.
Yeah.
Tara.
And then,
Instantly.
and then having the same thing for me, going off of Batman, Will Friedle.
Will Friedle.
Friedle. That was it.
Boy Meets World. Yeah.
Boy Meets World.
Impossible.
And also Terry McGinnis and Ron Stoppable. And
it's funny because when you this is what blows my mind in the whole situation. You look at an actor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people know actors for one thing. You never think to expand out of the one role that they've been in, right?
Yeah.
But then when you start digging deeper and seeing the things they do to like make money otherwise and like commercials and like voice acting, you're just like, damn, they grind it. Like they're really there's an actual thing that I actually caught on to. You know Hillary Duff?
Yeah.
It's not a voice acting thing, but MTV had The Hills, Laguna Beach, and this other show. And even My Super Sweet 16 was all Hillary Duff. One album of Hillary Duff was the theme song for like 5 different MTV shows at the same time. And you're just like, did I know Hillary Duff sang all those at the same time? No, I didn't know it's Hillary Duff. I didn't know she sang Sweet 16 till like maybe 6 years ago. But
that's
I
good
see
licensing.
it and I'm like, wow. And mind you, when she did her first album, or the album it's on, she was like 18, 16 years old.
Yeah.
Grinded, making that money. And I'm like, good on you for that.
Yeah. It's just gotta hit the pavement. It's like, and the thing is always, you never know what's gonna go where, or like what things are gonna connect with people. So it's just a thing like, when it comes to work, it's always a thing of, you have to have a really good reason to say no. And like sometimes it's like it's time, sometimes it's just like the pay just isn't, you can't commit to it because X, Y, or Z. But it's like, but if you can pull it off, it's like the why not? Because you never know what could happen from there.
But I also feel like with that, you should have your morals too, because there's a whole thing with Zendaya when she was doing Shake It Up. And apparently, I don't know how true this is because articles, obviously, this isn't like her saying it, but there was articles saying like they were messing with her, you know, they wanted her to do certain things, and she had to be her own boss and like step like defend herself and be like, no, we can't do that unless this is happening. We can't do that unless this is happening.
Yeah,
You gotta have your morals, man. You gotta know where your line is.
that's true. And just listen to your gut. I always feel like I'm a somewhat cynical person, so I'm always very much of the mind of, if something sounds too good to be true, it is. And not like it might be. No, it is. You just don't know what the detail is yet. That's the other shoe is about to drop and you don't know.
I feel like that too. I feel like and I always kind of laugh at it because sometimes I'll talk to someone about something and it's like a collaboration or I'm doing a commission for them and I'll feel weird about it. Like, I don't know if I should be doing this. Like, this doesn't feel right. And then 3 weeks later, or like whatever the time period is, later, something will happen. And then my brain will go, that's
why.
That was in my head before. That was getting me before, and I couldn't figure out what it was.
It's like I knew there was something there. It's like they're not quite an alarm bell, but at least a flag was just, we were at yellow. Yeah, okay, now we're at red.
Yeah, you ignore it. You think, oh, okay, I'm being stupid. You know.
I also think that anxiety and things have such a big pull on us right now. And it's been good that like acknowledging them just as a part of everyday life has become a more commonplace and stuff. So I think that's a good part, but or a very good thing. But also there's a small thing of like, cool, you gotta not listen to figuring out how to decipher what's anxiety and what is instinct saying, warning you off of something.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's always you never want to shoot yourself in the foot, because you're always playing out the worst case scenario. Now it's the thing of like, if you play out the worst case scenario, just be aware that that could happen. And if you just always have an escape route.
I think that what's funny with me is like, I feel like when I have something and it's really good, my first thought, and I don't know if it's anxiety or if it's just like situations, is always, all right, what can go wrong? You know, it's like, all right, what am I missing here? Because even if it's like the perfect situation and nothing is wrong with it, my brain is like already going, they're too nice, you know?
Yeah, there's a trap blade. There's a trap blade somewhere. I'm missing something. I see. I do my weekly skate and stuff like that, but with those,
Which is awesome, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man.
Awesome. If you guys like, I'm putting a link to your Instagram and the things so people can see it, because I used to rollerblade and I was gonna save for the podcast to tell you, but I would just like seeing you do all that stuff. I was just the guy who would like try to skate regular and try to do at least just roll down a hill, and I'd be on my ass instantly.
I've had a good couple of years of practice, so I'm lucky in that sense. But yeah, but with that, it's definitely something where you go, okay, is this anxiety or is this adrenaline? Because that adrenaline rush of like, we're about to go down a very big hill. I could get very hurt. Okay, let's just dig in and do it. And it's like, there's that weird thing where you cross over and you're like, that step off, that dropping into a ramp, that for me, it's always jumping off of something. I'm like, I love hitting ramps and I love getting air. And so I love jumping off stuff. And there's always that moment where,
because the last thing I saw on your Instagram was you jumping on stairs. So you telling me this now to me is like, yeah. Well, that's behind the curtain.
Yeah. But I'm like, I always love getting good airs and just, you know, that there's that moment where it's like you make the grab and you got to like time slows down because adrenaline is just coursing. And it's like, this is that good pump. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I think the biggest thing where it's like that is something like this, like a sculpture, because I don't call myself a painter or a sculptor at all. So when someone likes something I do, I'm just like, you like it? You know, it's that weird, but it's always like, I get scared when I'm doing it. Cause it's like, oh man, if I hate this and I spent like an hour working on it, and it's like, fuck, I wasted my time doing all of that work. And then after, I'm instantly like in love with it. I'm like, oh, no, it's cool. It's good.
Yeah. I've definitely been having that with some of my storyboards where I'm like, I'm getting to the end and I feel like I'm overworking them, because I'm like, the art styles I like sometimes really loose, but then I'm looking at mine, I'm like, oh, but it doesn't look finished. And so it's like, I'll noodle and I'll tinker. And then I'm like, oh, now it just looks like every other piece I've done. It's very generic and stuff, but I'm like, here's the piece. And I'm like, don't say anything about it. And the person's like, I love it. Okay, great. That's all. As long as you're happy, I'm happy. But also the internal part of my brain is going, I didn't nail the style that I wanted to capture. It's having that separation of like getting the adrenaline of like, what happens if I go loose? And it's like, okay, that's a little too loose. I can appreciate abstract, but we do need some defining features here.
Yeah, my issue with art sometimes is I overdo it. I'm guilty of overdoing it, where I'll do like a digital design and I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, it's cool, it's good. And then I'll like, maybe I'll step away and I'll come back and I'm like, nah, but we could put like a line here. Yeah. And I'm doing that for like a straight hour after the fact, and I look at it and I'm like, and I take away like everything. But it's that moment of where I'm adding all that stuff to it, where it's like, it's not needed. It's like, it's really good, simple.
That's the thing of like, when you're trying to put too much polish on something that's more effective by the simple parts. That's, yeah, I feel for that, because there's something great about simplicity. And it's a thing of like, I've been trying to go back and work analog a little bit more, because I've been drawing digitally a good bit. I'm trying
Best
to get
way to
back.
do it. I plan all my books analog, and major help.
Yeah.
No
Well,
pressure, you know.
and also just
there's
because,
pressure.
yeah, but like working in ink for me is something that I'd always work in pencil, because I always like being able to erase. And it's like, cool, digital, you can work in ink, but you just undo. And it's like that's nice. But also that whole process of like making a bad line and trying to figure out how to fix it and get creative and get those challenges is something that I think it's like hated as a kid, or even don't really love it right now where I'm at with art. But it's like, it's a necessary one, because I feel like it taps into problem solving gears that we can sometimes let go of, if of just like the Bob Ross happy little accidents, you know.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I love Bob so much, is because he's painting, and he'll like paint something, and sometimes he'll mess up. He's not always that perfect, you know?
Yeah.
And he'll be like, you know what? We're gonna make this into this. And then I'm just sitting there going, yeah, if that was me, I would have been scrapped it, looked for a new thing to put there, looked for another option, looked for like 8 other things to fill that space. Oh no, do I have to redraw the whole picture? And Bob is just like, oh, let's make this a house. And you're just like, what?
That's something I feel like I really enjoyed in sculpting, where it's sometimes you're pulling things out of it, but also when working with just like clay, it's like you can add onto it. And I like the additive, because I like the building, and it's like, cool, instead of trying to take away, it's like, ooh, made a mistake here. It's like, maybe we can build it, like building off of the mistake, as opposed to trying to remove things. It's like, I've been on a minimalist kick for a while, and it's been both good and bad, because a small part of me is like, well, I like having the clean part of it, but also like having those mistakes and learning to build off of them and sort of let it turn into something within the like within the frame, without it being a complete departure from what the intention was.
I mean, yeah.
That might have been a little heady there.
No, it's fine. In theory, though, my book, the Crento Files book that I have, it's an add-on, because I always tell this to people, because people are like, oh yeah, you're writing a book. The first book I had was about 6. It was my version of Friends. They all lived in an apartment together. I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I overplanned it. And my original idea was that Crento Files would be called Bros in Space.
Nice.
And it would just be 2 guys traveling in space, as almost like they created it as a spin-off for the first book. But the first book failed, and I hit a roadblock. And I was like, I don't know if I can write a book again. And then I realized I had an idea of a start of an idea. And I took like 2 years to figure out what I would do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what turned into what the book is now.
Nice.
So it literally was like, it's not that it was a mistake, because I hate that word mistake, but it was like something that wasn't supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
Turned into what actually worked.
Yeah, the adaptability of it, that, yeah, especially for books, writing, and
you don't overplan. That's the one thing I learned. Don't over planning. Man, people are always, you look at courses for like, because I've seen a few of them where it's like, oh yeah, you want to learn how to make comics, and then they're telling you to overplan, to put every little detail before you draw it. But one thing they don't tell you is what happens when you do that. You start drawing your comic, and you realize your comic makes no sense.
Yeah.
They don't teach you that, right?
no, that it's spot on because I've had one story that I definitely been tweaking on. I've been working with a good buddy of mine in developing the story, and it's very widespread. He's like, "Oh, this is a TV show." I'm like, "This is a comic book first because we don't have the money to produce a TV show with this." But I'm like, "Okay, well, I know where I want to end up." But as I'm getting into the weeds, I'm getting so meticulous with the details that I'm like, I need to just start boarding. I need to start putting the visual story in my head and try to define it from there, or else I'm just going to be doing exposition boxes the entire time of like, here's what's happening that I didn't have time to explain. And it's like, how do we do that more visually engaging? And how can I make this work as a silent film instead of trying to button up the other parts?
And then, with me, what I think is funny is when you write something and you fully have it figured out, it's fully planned out, you forget about like what a person is naturally. So you have to, like, I don't think you would have to put personality and stuff into it, but you have to give your characters some kind of reason for people to want to like read it or watch it. So if your characters are like, oh, they're just doing the actions and there's no like, he said it sarcastic or whatever, it's like, no one's gonna really watch it. No one's gonna be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
They just go to the movies and then they leave the movies and then they go home and he sleeps and then you wake, okay, what's the motivation? What's the reasoning behind him wanting to see that movie?
Yeah. I remember hearing one director talk to like filmmakers at a panel, and he was like, the one thing, do not put a montage of your character getting ready for the day. It is 90% of the time, it does not tell you any more about the character than they're like, it is a time killer. And I'm like, and he goes, especially for short films, he's like, you don't have the time for that. It's like, get to the story. And I was like, okay, so how do I simplify this instead of 3 panels into 1 shot? Or just
I
less being more, but also just another quote from that Cleed book of, you don't have to know who you are to get started. Or just what was the just start thing? Or just begin? Simply begin. Yeah. What is it from? Yeah. So there's a group called the Magape Spiritual Center. And
I have the person, by the way.
Yeah, my girlfriend is here. She's off camera. She's Kelly. Kelly is Too Loud on TikTok. She's very funny. I definitely recommend everyone check her out.
Guys, Kelly's Too Loud on TikTok. Get on it. You know what you have to do. Make it happen.
But yeah, it's I know we're running out of time here, but yeah, it's just interesting how immensely complicated we can make some of these things just by overexcitement.
All right, so I want to ask one more question.
Sure.
And then we can, do the little closing. I asked this to my friend Brian, the other co-host. I don't know if you saw that episode. If you can make a movie right now, and it was like you can choose any 2 actors to be the lead, and a project that's like it's a remake, what would it be?
Oh, a remake. Oh, okay.
It has to be a remake.
Has to be a remake. Well, I am gonna cast myself because after all this years of training, I gotta cast myself in it. Oh. Okay. Now I know this is, since it's a hypothetical, impossible scenario. All right. Star Wars, but in the genre of a Western.
Ooh.
Okay. So like there's plenty to play with there, but make it like maybe a sci-fi Western or like supernatural Western or something like that. But now the actors that
So it's you and who?
Me and oh, I just had this. Oh, this is a tough one because I'm going through the IMDb in my head of everything. I'm like, oh, that'd be so. Oh, well, Mark Hamill would be great. Put in Mark Hamill as Mark
Hamill is nothing. All right, for me, I'd say it's actually just popped in my head, and I think it'd be really funny. You know that Will Smith movie, Independence Day?
Yeah.
But instead of it being that, it's Seth Rogen
Okay.
and Kevin Hart.
That'd be so good. That would be great. I can already see the scenes of the dialogue in my head. Yeah. Oh, that'd be a great one.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Because you got Seth doing the big everything,
and you got Kevin Hart just losing it and just being like, "What the?"
You know,
that'd be great. Yeah, but putting them against aliens. Oh, that's great.
Oh my God. All right. Is there anything you'd like to shout out or promote, or you want to bring light to?
Well, I just launched my website for all of my art stuff on arw-studios.com, which that
it's also an Instagram account.
It's also an Instagram account, ARW Studios. Yeah. Aside from that, definitely want to shout out the LA Skate Honeys. They're on Instagram as well. They're definitely all over my Instagram profile. And yeah,
it's also, as someone who's seen like the videos and stuff, guys, check it out. It's fucking sick.
Yeah,
it's motivational as fuck.
I recommend everybody try to find it. If you have skates, I recommend everyone try to get out to one of these skate groups because they're good, just fun, active social things to just, we've all spent enough time inside. It's good to get out and just meet people. And it's an easy thing of just, you can roll and do your own thing, or you can chat and hang out, and it's all good. So I always want to shout out to them. Yeah. And also Kelly is Too Loud on TikTok. Definitely check that one out.
Everything.
That's it for me. That, and I'm Adam Weber. Ads.
Oh,
Weber
wait, hold on.
Okay. Sorry.
Breathe. Okay, guys. Everything he said will be in the description below. As usual, I'm on Instagram. I don't post that much on my main one, but I promise things are there. All my socials will be down below, and feel free to check out the other episodes. All right, go ahead.
I was just gonna pump yours of Quartz Creations on Twitch as well.
Oh, yeah. That too, and then you're on Twitch also.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get back on there, be better. Getting that message from you saying, "So where you been?" I was like, "Oh no, he's right. I gotta get back. I gotta stream more."
All right, guys. So I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, no problem.